Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and I Man here from the Block Runner MetaZone, Roby and Mscribe, and today we bring you Black Friday event. Runes is coming.
Black Friday event, indeed. What do you envision when you hear the words Black Friday?
When I hear Black Friday, I think of elbows and I think of 1080p TVs.
That's it?
That's it.
Basically mass, like, pandemonium.
Yeah, for a 1080p TV. Who
really
doesn't want?
Yeah. So people have gone absolutely mad over much less significant things, right? We're talking about 100x gains potential here.
Yeah.
This is very
allegedly.
This is very elbow worthy, right? I would elbow a man or two.
Yeah.
To get me 100x.
So what's the same elbow like
in the crypto sense?
In the crypto sense, yeah.
It's got to be in the mempool, right? We're battling it out.
Yeah. That's right.
That's what we're kind of like envisioning.
Yeah, didn't we see something like this with Inked, where somebody's paid $2,000 for a mint?
Yeah, it's already
for the fee.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it gets pretty competitive out there, dude. And as you guys are about to see, so we've been talking about runes for like months now, and as we're getting closer and closer to the Bitcoin halving, which is like, I don't know, 2.5 weeks away or something.
Yeah,
maybe 3 at most. It's coming up very soon. The more indicators and signs of mass hysteria are starting to appear, right? So it's completely different than what we saw.
So this is the point in time where the crowd is outside of the store.
Yeah, like literally you see like the walls being built and like the barbarian army is like right out there.
Yeah.
Like they're about to invade, dude. They're just waiting for
They're waiting for the doors to slide open and everybody's like getting trampled.
It's about the madhouse, dude. We're gonna see the crazy casino, right? So it's a casino that. So here they are. Here's the docs, right? So Casey has officially unveiled the makings of this next casino, right?
Yeah. So the rune section only has basically 2 pages. It's a rough outline of what runes are, and then a rough and even rougher representation of the specifications. So specifically, it says here, to get the real specs, you're gonna have to read the code, and that's where you get the real alpha.
Yeah, which, I mean, people, based on what we're seeing, because, like, I mean, what is it, April 2nd? These docs were released either yesterday or the day before. Mm-hmm. Nobody could really, well, there was, like, testnet code and such. But, so people have been kind of, like, front-running the deployment of this protocol, right, by being engaged and involved in the testnet experience, and they're building platforms in preparation of this, right? Mm-hmm. So there's people out there that are really gunning for like a market positioning here, as you should.
Yeah.
Right? Because remember, rewind a year ago, dude, when we saw BRC20s for the first time, it felt very like ghostly. There wasn't much out there as far as like competition. It was basically just Unisat and like ordinals wallet. And there, little things lingering from here and there. But yeah, it was very much smaller.
Yeah, and at the time you had to do like 20 or 50 inscriptions on Unisat to get access to something.
To get access to the marketplace.
To the marketplace, that's what it was.
Yeah, because they were like in their like trial phase, right? They didn't want to basically like fully open that gate.
Yeah.
Like, just to prevent badness from happening, and even with that like crack in the gate, they still got like exploited or something happened.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I remember those days. So it was quite the ruckus. So I imagine a lot of these platforms are going to experience something very similar once the gates are opened.
Yeah, so what we're looking at here is a tweet by Rune, and it kind of breaks down a little bit easier what runes are, and he points out that there's like extendability, but I've looked into runes, and I don't see like the functionality of extendability here like he suggests.
Yeah, it's not so obvious, but he does mention with soft forking abilities, I think you can start to implement some of these much more logic incorporating functionalities, right? It's very similar to what we see with TAP.
Correct.
And eventually CBRC20s and such. Like that is what developers want, right? We want to build highly functional things. We want to enable interesting mechanisms to play along with these the creation and emission of these and whatever the whole token environment, right? So up until now, it's very difficult to execute in the absence of smart contracts.
Yeah.
So it's not like completely clear as day like how to actually execute on that, and it's even less clear now on runes, right?
Yeah. So I've heard Casey talk about how that you can have ordinals interact with runes, And so the suggestion here as well is like you have runes and you have inscriptions kind of communicate with each other, where you can essentially upgrade assets based off like a
rune balance.
Yeah, rune balance.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if that's in there, that's cool.
It makes sense. I mean, they're both under the like Ord
Yeah.
umbrella, right? So these two,
It should
so
be
the
able to
fungible and
communicate.
non-fungible assets should have some interlinking between the two. So I think that'll be an interesting avenue to explore, especially for us. You know, how can we leverage like Rune token creation as some sort of like, you know, part of the ecosystem components to building something in ordinals, right? So it's fascinating.
And of course, we have Bob Bodley's tweet kind of breaking down runes as well. And ultimately, I definitely recommend you guys read this. It's pretty interesting. But he kind of hesitates here a little bit and says he doesn't see that much like in comparison to BRC 22.0.
Yeah, so he's got like the scoop on like what that is going to look like, right?
Yeah, and so there's like a there's sort of like a breakdown from Bob on BRC 22.0 is essentially a programmability module that lets you run any arbitrary compute on your BRC 20 tokens. So if you could have like an arbitrary compute module, that means you can pretty much do almost anything, right? And whether it's on-chain, off-chain, really, I don't know. That makes a difference from like from ethos perspective, but I think people want some sort of like functionality, right, at some point.
Yeah, so that's like, I mean, again, it's up in the air how to execute on this, because clearly this is like some path and it's going to be taken. Whether it's down the line or do it now, like just throw everything, bridge everything to a side chain, and let's just use Ethereum tools to execute this, you know, these functions. There's things like Lambda out there that are trying to initiate some like layer 1 smart contract programmability. And there's all kinds of different initiatives trying to address this. Now let's add modularity. You know, TAP enables different kinds of contract functions to exist.
Yeah.
So there's options, right? But the big question is, how is that going to execute on runes, if at all? I think some people are just saying, dude, just fucking, there's going to be tons of layer L2s out there. Just shove them over there.
Yeah.
You know, let's just like have fun. Let's just issue as many of these things as we can, make value out of that, and then just send them off on like little fucking boats, little ships, you know, little bottles, messages in the bottle.
Right.
Let them drift away to the second layer and hope to God they come back in like one piece.
Yeah. And it doesn't get cracked open, like stolen.
Yeah, hopefully somebody on that island over there isn't like a real pirate.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're friendly lads.
Well, speaking about pirates here, there's this concept called cenotaph as part of runes, that if you make a mistake technically on transferring a token or minting a token or anything to that effect, that your balance of runes gets burnt away.
Wow.
And
the whole thing, huh?
Yeah, the whole thing.
Meaning like
your UTXO balance of runes gets burnt.
That's nutty. That's interesting. So people are like, you know, up and down. Some people say this is good. This is going to force people to be more cautious, I guess.
Yeah.
More stringent with their actions and not so like, you know, frivolous and quick on the trigger because, you know, what's at risk. And others are like, dude, this is like the worst user experience you can expect. If we're ever this is going to be like a normie platform at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine telling them that.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's like the platforms are going to implement runes and hope they do it right.
Correct.
And then you're just going to use them and that's it.
Yeah, the saving grace is going to be, I guess, the platform builders at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Who kind of like ease this level of friction away from their users. So, yeah, I can see that.
All right, so Leonidas, his recent tweet here that runes is going to take over the planet so hard that it's going to collapse everything in its wake. Everything is useless and irrelevant.
Literally.
Except for runes.
It's literally like that scene out of Lord of the Rings. You know how like they're like right in front of like Mordor.
Yeah.
And like everything in the world's collapsing except for like the little army.
Yeah.
Like they're the only thing left. Right?
Yeah.
That's what runes is. It's like everything else, fuck it all, dude.
Yeah.
You know? So what's the logic behind that? Because Casey did it.
Yeah, because Casey did it, and the counterpart is, well, ERC20 and ERC 721s are the only ways to generate fungible tokens on Ethereum. Yeah. Therefore, that's the only thing that's going to happen on Bitcoin.
Yeah, basically history repeats itself, right? Like everything consolidates into a singular token protocol for fungibility and non-fungibility. So we already have the non-fungible protocol, right? And ordinals itself. So it makes sense to Casey's going to be the one to extend this. And,
I think the only difference is that ERC20s and ERC721s are by itself programmable.
Yeah,
so there's functionality that anybody can come up with and logic that's completely on chain, and therefore there's no need to have like competing fungible and non-fungible standards.
That's a great point.
Yeah, so that's not the case.
Completely forgot about that one, guys. It's pretty important. I mean, I understand like rune stones and stuff, and runes are pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, you got to really consider like, developers, what we need.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it.
If you don't build a platform or a technology where developers can build on it, build their own vision of their own protocol, their own thing,
mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to have the longevity that you would hope, where the outcome is that Runes is going to be the ultimate token protocol.
Right. So I'm in your wagon, dude.
Yeah.
We've been the advocates of developers. Like, that's always the most important thing on all facets of technology, right?
Yeah.
And we get it. Every now and then people fanboy and they fall in love with, certain people out there and, ideologies and momentum and all this stuff, right? It's but you cannot obfuscate reality. Is like, dude, actual technical progression is an important factor.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially if Bitcoin is in this ecosystem is going to actually manifest in anything of true substance, right? So, can Runes achieve that? Yeah, it's still early days. We don't know. So Runes, of course, is going to be part of the conversation. Like, can it evolve?
Sure.
To whatever extendability that results down the line.
Yeah.
Then yeah, for sure, it will probably swallow everything.
Yeah.
If that ends up happening. If not, it's just another casino.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we're gonna see in the early days of
we're
Runes.
already seeing. So here we are. So we're like, okay, maybe Leonidas is right. It's like, everything is just gonna be Runes. So let's see what's being built, right?
Yeah. So we have Rune Alpha here, and Rune Alpha is basically a platform to launch Runes tokens.
Yeah, we're trying our best to find platforms, right? We're platform builders. We built mScribe. He's like, this whole DMT thing, there's fungible and non-fungible tokens. Some platform needs to exist out there to support this, right?
Yeah, correct.
The minting, transferring, and all this such.
Yeah.
So we built that. So it's like a good assumption is people are building things for Runes. And we found a few, but I guarantee you there's like 10 more out there in the works,
Yeah, so one of them is Runes Alpha, and then we have Magic Runes.
Yeah. I mean, not much to them. It's like your typical inscription platform, right?
Yeah, let me show you an example. So if you go to guides here,
mm-hmm.
and you go to, I think it's, here we go, like the testnet. Like, they have an interface and everything for actually, getting your tokens launched.
Yeah. I mean, they have an actual, you want to go to their web platform, like you could just go maybe find their Twitter link. Let's just get our eyes on like one of these. Damn, I guess you don't have it, dude. Whatever, dude. Just imagine your typical inscription platform, but instead of minting BRC20s or tap tokens or whatever, you're minting runes. And the experience is not much different. Most of these are already kind of like more pre-marketing, launchpad-esque servicing.
Yeah.
Which is to be expected. Once these protocol actually gets deployed, everyone and their mother is going to have a sales proposition as far as like why my rune token is the best rune token on earth.
Right.
So why not launch these things? Damn, dude, I didn't know you read Mandarin. Like, damn, dude, you're about to just get iced. I can see it. Just clicking on everything here.
Yeah.
All right, whatever. I already painted the picture. Everybody understands exactly what's happening here.
Yeah, same thing with Magic Runes. And then we have indexing for runes happening through this OPI from Best in Slots.
Yeah, so I mean, already the indexers are lining up to support this stuff, right?
Yep.
Which, as we know, critical.
Yeah, you don't have indexing, you don't have interfaces.
Yeah, developers basically can't build shit. They can, but then they have to stand up their own indexer on their own, right? Which is a task and a half.
Yeah,
I would assume.
It is.
Right.
So finally, Runes market cap. This is like the degen mecca. Like all the data that you ever need as a degen is right here.
Yeah, this is proof of degeneracy.
Yeah.
Right. Remember when we were looking at BRC20s for the first time? Once we saw BRC20.io,
mm-hmm.
And we saw, he's like, oh shit, there's a market cap. Like collectively it was like 20 million.
Yeah.
You know, Ordi, it's like, there's 15 million market cap. Oh, meme token. You start to see like something's happening here, dude. People are participating in something new and weird. So we already have this even before the protocol's deployed. It's to be expected, right?
Yeah, I guess the challenge here is that it's not easy to determine first is first, like meta anymore, just because a lot of these are like pre-Rune allocations.
Yeah, and to be honest, that was a really stupid. I mean, I guess because Ordi's still out there lingering in the billions and such, so people still hang on to that.
Well, it's just the easiest narrative, and people want easy, right?
Yeah, but like outside of Ordi, I guess first is first. Literally, like anything outside of first, your time and positioning within like the deployment time frame really means nothing.
Yeah.
We've seen that with BRC20s, like all those like top 5 deployments, most of them turned into nothing.
That's true. They didn't.
Like the only one that really, so some random like meme coins had some momentum, like rats and I don't know, maybe
but that
bats.
came later though.
Yeah, those weren't early.
Yeah.
Somehow they just like, struck a nerve and
I think it was just the market. Like
it's
just deciding
timing and like, what's going on at the time and all these different factors, which we typically don't pay attention to because that's like literally throwing darts at a wall, trying to like predict which of these words is going to be the one to like capture the market.
Yeah.
It's tough. But every now and then something like track emerges, right? Something with some real core fundamental value.
Yeah, that's right.
So we're expecting that at some point here too.
Yeah. All right. And so finally we have a tweet from Beto, and he breaks down all the different Runes projects, Tiny Vikings. We have Game of Blocks with Gobs.
Yeah. Well, I guess, remember when we did our Gobs video? It wasn't like so obvious that this was a Runes play, but I guess something must have happened where it's like for sure one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess any recent airdrop has some element of like Runes.
Yeah, like why would you not be doing it as like some sort of pre-Rune dispersion mechanism? So yeah, we know about the Gobs. We talked about that last week.
Yeah.
Terabits
here from DMT.
Yeah, we talked about that in one of our DMT update videos. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
If you don't know what DMT is, we have tons of videos talking about it. So it's like it's a non-arbitrary way to generate a token supply for this Rune space, right? So they created a unique non-arbitrary token. I think there's like 2,000 of them or something like that. They're out there, and like you see those little dots on the map. That is literally like generatively rendered and processed, and like that is what determines this thing at the very bottom, this commerce strength score.
Yeah, commerce strength score.
And that's what dictates like your daily allocation. So it's interesting. It's another one of these RSIC things.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
GameStone.
That is from BTC Machine.
BTC Machine, yeah. So
they're out there.
Yeah, some of you got these airdrops as well.
I got one.
Yeah.
I think we might have them on the podcast at some point.
Yeah, maybe so.
Okay.
BTC Machines, yeah.
They might explain more.
This thing called Wizards.
Yeah. Yeah, so this list is pretty long.
Oh yeah, this is glyphs. Yeah, this is extremely long.
Elemental runes, and then the runes market cap, which we just saw. Magic runes. So yeah,
meta runes.
Shout out Beto. I think everybody should definitely read this article.
Yeah, read this article. Make sure you follow Beto. This guy is great. Like he's really going to the details here.
Yeah, he always has like he does the deep dives. He did a ton of deep dives for DMT.
Yeah.
He created some of the coolest graphics that like made that brought out like the intuitiveness of it all. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, shout out to Beto. If you guys want to know exactly what's happening out there, just follow this list. And then, we're like, 2 weeks out. By the end of that 2 week frame, this list will probably 3 or 4x.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty wild. So, I mean, we're going to do our best, I guess. At least once a week, we're going to like peer our eyes at this.
Yeah. Yeah. Just see what's happening.
At least.
Yeah.
And if it gets that out of control where we need to like spend more time, we will.
Yeah, for sure.
I just want to add something real quick. You guys called this Black Friday, and all 3 of us are wearing black T-shirts.
That was not on purpose.
That was not on purpose.
I mean, I remember texting you guys, like, make sure you wear all black today.
That's right. We really had to like get the ethos or like the
death,
the ominousness of like just human competition at like its most cutthroat.
Yeah.
So
if you don't have $2,000 to sling at your elbows around, then
Stay home.
yeah, stay home.
Don't get trampled.
Yeah.
Please don't get trampled.
All right, guys, that's it for us. All the links will be in the description. Appreciate you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.
Peace.